Welcome to Supporting Big Emotions Before School Starts by the Parenting Team. This guide is for parents and carers to learn how to help your child feel strong, calm and ready for school adventures. What are we going to talk about today? First of all, what do we mean by being school ready? And what do we need to think about in terms of supporting our child to feel ready for school? We'll look at knowing and naming feelings, talking about feelings, learning how to cope with feelings, how we can support our child to build their confidence, and helping them to settle into school. Finally, we'll look at where we can go for further support if we need it.
So what do we mean by school readiness? When we hear the term school readiness, we may think of things like, are our children able to put on their shoes? Can they use the toilet and wash their hands? Are they able to get dressed with a little bit of help? And you may have already helped your child with all those practical skills. But in today's webinar, we're going to focus more on the emotional skills. Do our children feel ready? Just like learning to get dressed or go to the toilet, it takes time to feel confident about starting school. This is not a checklist and every child is different. We've put together these tips based on feedback from parents, schools and childcare professionals in terms of what skills they feel children need to be emotionally and practically ready for school. So if your child is starting school next year, it's a great time to start thinking about and start helping them get ready. Here are some things that we can think about to help everyone feel ready. So, for children, some personal things. Knowing and naming feelings. Are they able to talk about and do they have some ways which they can cope with feelings? How are they feeling about school? Are they feeling confident? And are they able to feel comfortable saying goodbye and be apart from us? In terms of social things, are they able to recognise how others feel? That will help them make friends and be able to say no and set boundaries. It's also important that they're able to manage turn taking and sharing. As for parents and carers, we may also have nerves about our children starting school, so it's important that we can manage that. We want to also be able to say goodbye and be apart from our children. We also want to know where we can go to get support. The first step for our children is knowing and naming feelings. For young children, it can be really hard to know how they feel and to be able to say it, especially if it's a tricky feeling. So as adults, we can support them by talking about how we feel too, whether that's happy, excited, or even sometimes sad or frustrated. By doing that, we can help them learn that a range of emotions is normal and that it's okay to have lots of different feelings. So, it's okay for us to show our own feelings too in front of our children, sometimes even the tricky ones. Our children can learn a lot when they see us handle those feelings well. It's important to use words your child understands, like feeling scared, worried, or wobbly. They might not know what we mean when we say anxiety. If they are struggling to find the words, we can also ask them to tell us how they feel in our body. Like instead of saying they feel worried, they might describe having butterflies in their tummy. Talking about feelings is really important for our children and is something that we can do within the family and within the household. We can use pictures to help our child see and understand feelings. We'll show some examples on the next page. If your child isn't able to say how they feel, but you can see that they look upset, you can try guessing and giving them the words. It's really important that you check your understanding afterwards and make sure it's correct. So for example, you could say, "You look sad we can't go to the park. Is that right?" Dancing can be a fun way to show feelings when it's hard for children to use the words. We can also have conversations about characters, so how people in books, TV shows or movies might feel. We can pretend play with toys and teddies and talk about their feelings. We can act out stories with different characters and different situations to help our child to think about how others might feel in particular scenarios. We can also ask our child, what can you say or do if you don't feel okay? And that can help prepare for when they're at school in case they encounter any difficult situations. These are some examples of pictures that you can use to help children name feelings. So this is going to be different depending on your child's age, development and learning style. The first one that we've got on the left is the problem scale. So this can be something that's helpful for children to put problems into perspective. Is it something that can be solved fairly easily, or does it need a lot of help? Next, we've got the feelings thermometer. So this can be useful to help children understand emotional intensity. We can tailor it to our own child, for example, using it with an emotion like anxiety. What do they look like when they feel anxious? And how do they know whether they feel a little anxious or really anxious? And what can they do? The body map can be used in a couple of ways. You could use a diagram or a stick figure like is on the screen. You could even get a big piece of paper and draw around your child and then get them to draw where they feel anxious. The last one we've got is a traffic lights, so you could use something like this with smiley faces so children get used to reading different facial expressions and knowing how they should respond. It's really important that our children learn to cope with a range of feelings. As very young children, our children will need a lot of support from adults to help them to regulate their feelings before they start to learn to do this independently. So the visual on the screen shows a lot of ways in which we can do this together, that we can regulate with our child. It might be that we model deep breathing, that we do a preferred sensory activity together, or that we go for a walk outside together. You'll know your child best and what works for you and the family. We can also start to teach simple coping skills, like using coping cards or practicing deep breathing. We'll show some examples of these on the next slide. These are some examples of pictures that we can use to help our children cope with feelings. Again, these are going to be different depending on your child's age, development and learning style. So the first one shows I feel with facial expressions, and then I can, so what they can do if they feel a certain way. For example, I feel sad, I can take deep breaths. We can also use coping cards if that works for our child. So for the examples on the screen, it says I can always ask for help if I need to. I felt worried like this before, and the feeling always goes away. So those can be quite nice for our children to have on them to remind them of how they can cope. We can also use simple breathing exercises like the one on the screen, where they place their finger on the dots and go from arrow to arrow while breathing in and then out. How can we help our children build their confidence when they're thinking about starting school? First of all, it's really important to remember that it's okay for your child to feel worried about starting school. Some nerves are normal, so let them share those feelings and listen to them so that they feel heard. At the same time, it's important that we try not to share our own worries or fears about them starting school, even if we've got concerns about how they'll get on. It's important to try and stay positive and confident. We can talk about the exciting things that school can bring, like the opportunities for making new friends and learning new skills. It can also help to give lots of praise and encouragement for everyday tasks and efforts. It might be good to have a practice first. That way your child gets used to putting on their uniform and the journey to school. It also helps that your child gets chances to practice social skills and independence. That could be things like nursery, play school, or just doing games as a family. That way they'll learn to start turn taking and sharing. So far, we've talked about supporting children to feel ready for school, but it's also important for parents and carers to feel ready for their children to start school too. You're allowed to have first day nerves. This is going to be one of the most exciting but also nerve-wracking parts of parenting. It's a big change for all of the family, so try and build up the time apart gradually to help manage the separation. It's important to use your support network, whether that's talking to family, friends or other parents. You might like to plan some relaxing or fun activities to do with your child after school or on weekends, once they've had a chance to settle in. Try to focus on the positives of school. Your child's gaining their independence. Remember, they will still need you. It's also a chance for you as a parent to build new routines. It's not just the children that get to make new friends. Check if there's a social media page for your school year's new starters, then you can connect with other parents. This is the flyer for the Starting Reception website. You can scan the QR code or use the web link at the bottom to take you directly to the website. This is where you can find the definition for Starting Reception, also known as school readiness. You can also navigate to a dedicated page for children with additional needs, whether that's confirmed or suspected. We'll show the link to this on the next couple of slides. Helping our child with settling in. Bearing in mind, your child's probably going to be feeling really tired after school when they first start, and be prepared that they may be a little more clingy, grumpy, emotional or overstimulated. So it's best to keep your social plans light during the first few weeks of school. You can have ready some chewy or crunchy snacks to offer after school. The sensory input can help with emotional regulation for some children. Some children might need some time to unwind after school. They might want a bit of quiet time alone or perhaps a calm activity before they start talking about their day. When asking them how it went, it's best to avoid too open questions like "How was your day?" You might just get the reply, "Fine." Instead, try asking open-ended questions like, "Tell me 2 good things about your day and 1 thing you'd like to change." This is known as 2 stars and a wish. Or you can ask questions like, "What are you looking forward to today? Tell me what lessons you like." Having casual chats on the car or when you're out on a walk can help them to open up, because there isn't so much direct eye contact. You can also make getting ready fun, like having a game of who can get dressed the fastest, choosing songs for the playlist for the car journey, or spotting yellow cars on the walk to school, for example. Where can you go for further support? As mentioned before, on the Starting Reception website, there's a dedicated page for children with additional needs where you can find further information and resources. You can also look at the national charities, Family Lives and Parent Kind. The BBC also has some interactive resources for all of the family, including children, like videos that they can watch. Before and during your child's starting school, you can talk to your teacher or special education needs coordinator. Once they start, you can also access the school health team via the website below or by talking to the school nurse. If you would like more information about support that's offered through the parenting team, you can scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you for listening to this webinar. On the screen, we've got a brief satisfaction questionnaire where you can give feedback on this webinar and how you found it. Just scan the QR code on the screen. We've also got a link to the website, Facebook page and our email address so that you can contact us if you need to. Thank you.